let me introduce this show. Lit Up is my Instagram show that brings to you fun and profound interviews with spiritual teachers with the aim of tuning you in and lighting you up. And I'm so excited to have with me today Karen K. Now I'm gonna read something that I've written about Karen because you've done so much. I had to write it down. So Karen K is a fairy expert. She's an author. She's the editor-in-chief of FAE Magazine, one of my favorite magazines, and the founder of the first Faery Balls in the UK, amongst many other fairy festivals. Leaving her career as a BBC journalist in, I don't know a date, Karen went on to become a trailblazer in fairy wisdom and lifestyle. And she currently writes a monthly column for Soul and Spirit magazine. Wow, what a life, Karen. So before I go into the questions, I want to give some housekeeping to the people joining us live right now. Welcome, everyone. If you have any questions for Karen about fairies, please pop them into the comments, and also keep us entertained throughout the interview. We don't want this to feel like an interview. We want this to be a conversation between all of us. So if you like something, tap it out with hearts. If you agree with something, you have a story to share, share it with us and let us all have this co-creative fairy experience together. Also, by taking little micro actions like these ones, liking and commenting, you're training yourself to keep taking action towards fulfilling your life purpose. So tap it out right now with some hearts to show that you agree, to show that we are here with us and ready to take on this magical journey. And also, I'd like to ask you to stay until the very end of this interview because Karen has an exclusive announcement for us. All right, so without further ado, let's kick off this interview. Karen, when I see you, when I think about you, the first thing that comes to my mind is fairy. You embody fairy wisdom, you embody fairy lifestyle, and frankly, I want to know how. So my first question to you is, it's a very general question. How did you start on your fairy path? What got you where you are today? How did it all begin?
Wow, okay, well, first of all, thank you so much, George, for inviting me to be a part of this amazing show. I've watched your previous shows and they're fantastic and you have really good guests. So I'm honoured to be here. And hi, everyone. Thanks for coming and watching this interview, or this chat, I'd like to say. My earliest fairy memory was when I was a very young child, and I used to spend a lot of time with my grandmother in her garden. She loved roses, she loved all flowers, and I just remember the fragrance and the colours and just being there with her. And as the petals used to fall, I used to gather them up and make what I believed was fairy perfume. It was more like rose water, but I was making it for the flower fairies. And I would, you know, crush it up and it was really special from my heart, and I would leave it as an offering for them. And that was my first connection that I consciously recall with the fairies, and they basically just been there on my shoulder throughout my whole life, prompting me and getting me to do all kinds of crazy things.
Oh, wow. I'm loving the idea of the fairy water. And I mentioned in your introduction that you were a BBC journalist. Now, leaving that job would have been hard. Leaving a job that's like, by mainstream standards, it's a proper job. It's a good job that pays and brings money in. How did you make the decision to leave all this security and follow the fairy path? Because I know many people watching live here today, they dream of following a spiritual based career, and you're someone who's done it and who's done it consistently for many years. So what got you to make that jump off to the magical path?
There were quite a few reasons why I decided that it wasn't the path for me, even though I'd actually spent many years training to become a BBC journalist. It was an aspiration of mine, and I felt that I could do some good work if I worked within that organisation. It wasn't for me though, because I was a little bit too light and fluffy for that kind of job. I learned lots. I've got lots of very good friends still within the BBC, and I'm really grateful for that. And I learned so much that I was able to carry through. But literally one day I woke up and I thought, I can't go in. I couldn't do it. And I don't get that a lot in my life, but when I get that big no, that's enough, I just have to follow it through, because if you continue to do that when you know that it's a no, then you end up suffering. So I just literally woke up and thought, I can't do it anymore. And I didn't really know what I was going to do. I just knew that that was not the path, and I had to create the space to see what was meant to be, to come in. And it has now.
And do you feel that the fairies contributed in that stepping stone, into that, that indeed filling up this empty space that you created?
Yeah, definitely. Because I consciously invited them into my life. Yeah. Because as I said, I had this connection with them, but I wanted to work more initially from an environmental point of view, because fairies are guardians of this planet, the plants, the trees, the flowers, etc. And I'm a very passionate environmentalist. So that was my first angle when I came in, my connection with them. And yeah, I just knew that I wanted to do more work in that direction. And I've kind of gone off now. I can't remember what the question was.
No, that's so interesting, Carla. That's so interesting that you say that, because I started in a similar way. I studied geography at university, so it was like environmental work, helping the planet, and then step by step, the path got me into fairy work. Now, the other question, I wanna keep on the same question about your path, because it is so interesting, especially the part where you have the idea of creating the first fairy ball in the UK. Now, what is a fairy ball for the people who don't know?
Okay, so a fairy ball is where humans with fairy hearts and minds gather together and celebrate and party. And the first fairy ball was created because I've always been a bit of a party girl, like all through my teenage years, a little bit of a rebel. But as I grew older, I had a more refined taste, and I found the pubs and clubs a little bit too harsh for me. So I had this vision that I wanted to create my perfect night out, where I could dress up, all the glitz and the glam and the sparkle and the wings and the tiaras and everything, but in a safe space. And I envisaged it to be like, I thought, what would a nightclub be like in Fairyland? Where would they go to party? And that was where the inspiration came from. So I wanted to do it. I knew that there were things in America that had gone on, but I hadn't ever been to one. So I just thought, you know what, I'm going to do it. I didn't know if one person would come, but it actually sold out, and all these beautiful people just came out of the woodwork. They all heard in magical ways, like, oh, so-and-so told me, or I heard it here, or I saw a leaflet there, and they all came, and it was amazing. And I've never looked back. It's almost like it wanted to happen, and I just had to be at the wheel of it, but it's going to go whether I want it to or not. So, yeah.
I'm laughing because this sounds like the best party for me as well. I hate clubs and I hate going out and like being intoxicated and all that idea. And I did that through my 20s because I felt like I had to, because the mainstream society in a way enforced that onto me. Had I known fairy balls existed back then, that's the direction I would have gone to. And I see Katie tells me right now in the comment, George, you will have to come to the next Glastonbury one. Have you done something in Glastonbury as well, if I remember correctly? Have you organized something similar?
Yeah, I do the Fairy Balls in Glastonbury as well. I do 2 a year, one in the spring around March, and then another one in October. Yeah. And it again, that it started off as one day and one night, and it's ended up as a full weekend now. And people, all the fairies take over Glastonbury, and Glastonbury is such a wonderful, wonderful place anyway. So both the fairies and Glastonbury enhance each other, and the energy is just really high. It's really lovely.
The child is well guarded, so the energy is just magnificent in there. And I see Rebecca here says the fairy ball changed my life, changed our lives.
That's so special.
It must be so heartwarming to know that a lifetime's work has paid off. And moving on to the FAE Magazine, which is one of my favorite magazines. Whenever I want to just escape from the issues of my life or anything going on in the world, I just open the magazine and I'm instantly transported into the fairy world. Was that the idea behind it, or what is the idea behind it? Why did you decide to create the FAE Magazine?
You know what? I'm not 100% sure whether it was my decision or whether it was my inspiration from the fairies, because once you open your heart and your life to the fairies, then they will just like funnel ideas into your head all the time. And they don't have a concept of what it's like to be a human, so they will work you from dawn till dusk. They will make you work. So sometimes you have to say no, but they gave me the idea because as I said, I'd come from the BBC and I thought, I've got all these skills, and I also did print journalism as well as broadcast journalism. And I thought, what do I do with these skills? There must be a reason, there must be a purpose. And it somehow, and I really can't remember exactly how, but FAE Magazine was born, and it gave me a platform to share my passion for fairies and fashion and the lifestyle. And it wasn't like a make-believe magazine, it's a lifestyle magazine for people that follow that path. And it gets me, I'm able to use my skills that I learned as a journalist, so it's perfect. And I work with a great team of people, and again, it's just gone all over the world. I couldn't believe it. I had a phone call one day when it first started, because I was just doing it for myself, like a bit of a fanzine, and the phone rang, and this man said he wanted to take Faye to the USA, and I thought it was a joke, it was a wind-up, and I said, oh yeah, okay, and I'll talk to you some time. And then he was emailing, and then he said, are you getting my emails, and you know, do you want Faye to be in the USA? And I said, are you serious? And he said yes. And the next thing, I had a contract come through, and it was being distributed in America and New Zealand and Australia, and I think we've even got some in Japan and all over Europe. So it's like, it's really taken off. And when did that start? 2007 that started. That's a while ago.
And there's a question right now, actually, how can I help you bring the Fairy Ball to the US? So it is in the US. How can people find out about the Fairy Ball in general?
What I do, I've got quite a few websites with all the different things that I do, but the Fairy Events website has all of the events that I do on it. But on the FAE Magazine website, I have a whole section of fairy events that are taking place across the whole world. And also in the magazine, I have a fairy diary of events all over the world. So people send them in, or I discover them, and I just share that knowledge with everybody. So if they live in a different country, they can just go to their fairy ball in their own country.
And there's a lot of appreciation coming through regarding FAE Magazine. Such an amazing magazine. Thank you so much for creating it. I would love to bring a fairy ball to this area. So many comments. Thank you so much, everyone. Okay, now let's get to the juicy part, fairies. So for people who have never connected with fairies, can you give us a general introduction of what are fairies and how do we connect with them?
Okay. Right, I'll go a bit still now. By the way, before I came to do this interview, the fairies were, I sensed them telepathically, and they were all around, like they're so excited to have this opportunity. So thank you again for that. Now, a fairy is a being that is here to protect the planet, a guardian. Much like we have guardian angels, there are guardian fairies who are guardians for people, but they're mainly guardians for the land, the planet, the trees, the plants, the flowers, anything that grows. And they're here for that. That is their divine purpose. And they've had a bad press, you know, over the years. Yeah. But they are just as needed, just as valid as the celestial angels, who also have their own job. Now, to connect with the fairies, I always say the best way to connect with the fairies is to connect with nature, because they are close to nature. So if you forge a connection with nature, then you're one step closer to forging that connection with the fairies. Now, they are very naturally cautious of humans. You know, not us and the people watching this probably, but other humans kind of don't do very nice things to nature. So fairies will, they have withdrawn over the years and gone back into the undergrowth. So when they see humans, you know, they might tangle you up on a bramble or something, or trip you up, because, you know, they're a bit annoyed with humans, understandably. So it's a very, you have to be quite patient if you want to connect with fairies, and you have to be still. You don't have to meditate as such, but you have to create that space, because they will connect with you in very subtle ways. And you need to have your awareness fully present. So again, it doesn't have to be a meditation, but to be in a stillness, ideally next to a tree, because you're grounding yourself with that tree and you're in the element of the fairies. But it's not always possible for people to do that. You can do it in your own home. Being next to a pot plant, most people have plants growing in their home. There will be fairies around that plant, at least one fairy. And when you connect with one fairy,
I just wanted to come in and say hi.
When you connect with one fairy, you're kind of connecting to all fairies, because I suppose a little bit like bees, there's a hive mind. There's kind of a fairy mind as well.
I like this idea, yes.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, it makes sense when you think about it. So you can connect through to all fairies through one fairy. And it's a waiting game, basically. They will scan you. And by that, I mean that they will check you out. They'll check out your energy, and they'll feel your energy, and they'll feel, is this person a nature lover? Does this person love animals? Does this person love the environment? You know, they will maybe not ask those questions, but they will be feeling that from your aura and from your energy. And if you are a person who loves nature, etc., then they will draw closer to you. And you have to be receptive and open to little callings. So they might say to you, you might hear a little whisper on the breeze, or you might get an inspiration. I would say always have a notepad and pen, or you sorry.
No, I am loving this, because it's literally the fairies just chiming in and saying yes, 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 yes.
Make a note of anything, inspirations that you get. They often communicate in rhyme, in song, in music. They're very joyful, celebratory creatures. They like to enjoy themselves. So if your vibration is quite high, happy and up, they will be more drawn to you. It doesn't mean they won't come to you if you're a bit down, because they can cheer you up too. But the more open and receptive you are to them and creating that space, they are more likely to draw to you. And just show them that you mean business, you mean fairy business. You know, I will change the chemicals. I won't use chemicals in my laundry liquid anymore. I will pick up litter when I go out, and things like this that will be noted. They will be watching. Once you reach out to them on an energetic level, they will be watching. And it's just, yeah, the waiting game. And if they want to connect with you, they will. And if they don't, they won't. But it doesn't mean that you can't work with them still. It can take a while, or it might be very fast. It really depends on them. The main thing is expect the unexpected.
I love what you just said regarding the fairies being the guardians of nature, and really having some kind of an ego, like a lesser ego than humans, in the sense that they can see and they can judge who is a nature-loving human and who isn't. Which brings me to the question: since the fairies are the guardians of nature, why bother with humans? Why bother help us in the first place?
Why would they bother helping us in the first place?
What is their interest in that?
Okay, because fairies do not have the bodies. They have ethereal bodies. You know, they exist on the same dimension as us, in an parallel dimension, if you like, and they can come through onto ours, but they don't have the physicality that we have. So in a way, they need us to do their work on some level. When we're looking after the land, they want us to love the land. They want to encourage us to do that. So humans do play a crucial role too. I believe that every single living thing on this planet is crucial to the planet. Sometimes we go off the path. All the beings can go off the path. You hear about fallen angels, you hear about naughty fairies, you hear about naughty humans. You know, we're not all perfect, but we all have a purpose and we all have a reason to be here, and it is, we can all help each other, and that includes us helping fairies, fairies helping us, angels helping fairies, angels helping humans, etc., etc.
So it's a co-creational experience that we are having with the planet and with nature. So it's not more of a taking advantage of fairies, but partnering up with fairies to create heaven on earth in some way.
Yes, definitely.
And I like Katie just said in a previous comment that she's setting up, what did you say? I make a fairy space in my garden and ask them to come in, which brings me to my question around some practical ways that people can use to invite fairies into their homes. Are there some practical ways? Are there any things or certain songs or anything that fairies like and tend to be attracted to that we can use to invite them into our space?
Yeah, first of all, if you want to invite a fairy into your home space, then you have to be prepared for a lot of things to start happening. And you can do that really simply by placing a fairy door in your home and just say something from your heart. It can be simple, like, fairies, fairies, come to me. I open the door, it is for thee. Or something, anything. You can just make it up.
I love it. Okay.
Yeah, but once you open that door, I don't know how you can close it again, because I opened the door and I can't find the way to close it. So you do have to be really mindful.
Yeah.
Well, because they do take over your life. I mean, my whole life has been taken over by them, but I'm a willing participant, if you like. They're not controlling me, but they are inspiring me. And it is a two-way street. So I do consent to that. And if sometimes I feel like I don't want to do some of the ideas that I get, then I just know. Yeah. So I would say, first of all, think very carefully before you do invite them into your home space. And I would initially say invite them into an outside area first, maybe in your garden. But if you do want them to come in your home, then do it, but set your intention very, very clearly. And also, I would say, whatever your particular path is, call in your own guardian angels or pray or whatever it is that you do that first. Protect yourself before you invite the fairies in, and then just see what happens. But do it from your heart, do it very simply, or you could do a grand ritual. It's entirely up to you. Be creative with it, but I would say something very simple and sincere, because fairies will respond to genuine feelings and thoughts and sincerity. They will respond to that, and something that is coming from a pure heart and a place of pure intention, they will respond to.
I once heard, Karen, that fairies like chocolate, and I've heard from other people that fairies don't like chocolate and they like vegan, natural foods. What's your take on that? Just a fun question that popped in my head.
Yeah, well, my take on it is that fairies, they do like sweet things, and you hear that they like mead, and there are various schools, you know, where people say they like chocolate, they like sweets, they like this, they like that. For me personally, I would only leave out for them what I would eat myself. So it would have to be vegan, it would have to be organic, and it would have to be pure food, as natural as possible. I'm not saying I don't eat unnatural food, because I do, but generally when I'm kind of on my zone, in my zone, it would be pure healthy food. Fairies don't physically eat the food, they energetically eat the food. So if you find that you're eating outside, like in your garden at a picnic or something, and you've got these delicious strawberries or whatever it is, and you eat them and it seems like they should taste sweeter than they do, it's because the fairies have already sucked out all of that energy, and they've had their fairy feast on your food, and that's fine, there's enough to share. But that's sometimes why your food can taste a little bit bland, if the fairies are around when you're eating.
Because they're feeding off the vibration of the food, basically, and just leaving you the physical matter.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love that.
basically. Yeah,
So
clever.
creating a fairy door. So inviting the fairies in your garden, in your natural space first, via fairy door. And also providing them foods that we would eat. But what if we don't have access to nature? Like, for example, right now, I am in Madrid. It's a big city, urban city. I lived in London for 4 years, and I found it really hard to connect with fairies and the elementals in general while being in an urban environment. What can we do to bring fairies into our lives if we can't get out in nature? It may be too cold and we can't get out, especially in the winter. What can we do?
Yeah, yeah. Well, you can talk to the fairies through your heart on that vibration, because they very much connect on that level. And you can be at the top of a high-rise tower block. You can be anywhere. You can be in a coal bunker. You don't have to be outside. When they hear your call, they can come if they want to. Again, they have to want to come. And a way to do it is to just create that open space. And if you don't have a physical fairy door, you can draw a fairy door. It works just as well. You can get a piece of paper and a pen and draw a fairy door, or you can visualize a fairy door and visualize them coming through it and put a little welcome sign on it. Write welcome, so they know they're welcome. Because some of the doors that fairies go through, they're not very welcome when they get there, you know.
Yeah.
So they have to know that they're welcome, know that there is love waiting there for them, and that you love and care for the planet as much as they do. And they will be more inclined to come forward. And you can do that from anywhere, outside, inside, anywhere at all, because it comes from your heart ultimately.
This is so empowering, Karen, because many people feel that they need to be outside in nature to communicate with the fairies, whereas it's our intention that's more important, because the fairies can sense that. I mean, yes, there is space and time, but to the fairies, in a sense, that's just an illusion, and they can communicate through the ethers. I want to read some comments that are coming through right now. Okay, so Richard says, the fairies appeared in my home when I was taking Doreen Virtue's fairyologist course. I was able to see the first fairy with my physical eyes, and it has not stopped since. Now, what are some tips you can give us to people who want to see fairies with their physical eyes? And is it necessary to see them with our physical eyes to work with them on a deep level?
First of all, I mean, that's amazing that he is seeing, that you're seeing these fairies. Richard, was it? Yeah, I mean, that is amazing. What a beautiful gift and a blessing.
Yeah.
It's not necessary for everybody to be able to see fairies physically, to be able to work with them and connect with them. I've seen fairies a couple of times physically, but generally I see them as light, and very bright lights, like electric lights, blues and greens and purples and pinks, and very energetic lights. That's all I can describe them as, and I feel them when they're present as well. So it's about forging that connection and creating that open space within yourself, being receptive, and put out the intention, please show yourself. Fairies, fairies, show yourself to me now.
So again, it's just a matter of having that intention.
Yeah, yeah. And it really is the intention. The words, you can say whatever words you want, but if they're carried by the intention, the pure intention from your heart, then they will feel it like we can feel it. You know,
exactly.
we can feel it.
Exactly. Many people keep telling me that they get discouraged in communicating with any kind of spirits, with their angels or their fairies, because they don't get physical signs. And I keep affirming that you don't really need the physical sign, you just need the knowingness, because we have different ways of receiving this divine guidance and our communication with the fairies. Okay, so my next question is, in the years that you've worked with and partnered with and connected with the fairies, what is the single message that consistently keeps coming through? What do the fairies beg for us to know?
They just want us to stop polluting our earth and to care for the trees and stop chopping the trees down. You know, they're looking out for us, thinking, what are you doing? Because we need trees to breathe, we need trees to survive. And humans just love chopping those trees down. You know, it happens all the time. And that is the strongest message that I personally get through my connection with fairies. I did a tree summit recently, actually, where I spoke for a whole hour on the connection with trees and how gnomes connect with trees as well, because they tend to gather around the roots of trees to protect the trees as well. So yeah, it's really about protecting all of nature, but specifically, you know, leave the trees alone. Like, hey teacher, leave those trees alone. You know, that's the vibe that you have to. Oh, I don't know. It just seems crazy that I'm even having to say it. It's so obvious. And the people that are listening here, we all know this. We know that we need trees. But sometimes you feel like you want to shake people. Just say, leave the trees. Love them. Save them. The fairies really would like us to save more trees because the birds live in the trees as well. The birds carry the fairies. You know, the fairies will ride on the back of birds. And that's another way to win favour with the Fae, is by feeding the birds. Because when you look after the birds, that's another thing that you can do. So yeah, trees, save the trees.
Because they do have a soul, they do have a spirit. I mean, we wouldn't treat humans that way, so why treat the trees that way? So the way I hear you talk about this is that we need to, fairies, having a connection with fairies, help us really revolutionize our connection with nature, with Mother Earth, and just don't see trees and flowers and the sky and fire, but really see beings behind those nature aspects, not just some inanimate things, but some beings with soul and with personalities and with energy. The way you talk about the fairies feels like they're just your friends. Is that how you manage to establish such a strong connection with them through the years?
Yeah, I do see them as my friends. I feel like they are friends, and we work together, and they have their purpose. And I don't want to say they use me, but they guide me, and
they partner with you.
I'm a partner, because I can do the things that, and I hope this doesn't sound arrogant, I can do some things that they can't do on a physical human level. I mean, they work magic. Fairies are magical beings. They can do anything. But to have a kind of willing partner who's willing to work with you is really beneficial for them. And the benefits for me are just, I can't express. I mean, working with them, it's like, I don't drink champagne anymore, but it feels like fizzy champagne all the time. Like, it's just such a beautiful, light, high vibrational energy. And even though they're beings of the earth and they're close to the ground, their energy, for me, when I connect with them, is very high vibration.
Celebration. And then the hearts are coming through endlessly. So people are definitely vibing with what you're saying. So you mentioned trees and gnomes. So really briefly, can you guide us through the pillars of the different fairies and what's their realm of influence in some way?
Okay, there are quite a lot of fairies, so I can do a few. I'll start with the gnomes. I have a really strong, especially recently, a really strong connection with the gnomes, and I think maybe that's because they're really earth creatures. The gnomes are very close to the earth, and they like to gather around trees, around the roots, and they work very, very closely with the land. They're very grounding beings. So if you wanted to connect with fairies and you want to ground with them, then I would say get in with the gnomes, because they know what's going down, and they're really like rooted and can really help you ground during any kind of during any kind of fairy work. Because sometimes working with fairies, you've heard the expression way with fairies, you know, because people are like la 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 and they go off. It's easily done because it's so heady and fizzy and light. So sometimes you need that gnome energy to really root you and to ground you. Let's see. So where should we go? So we'll say the sylphs, the fairies, the sylphs, the fairies of the air. Yeah. And they can talk to you through the breeze as it comes through the trees. You know, is it the wind or is it the sound of the sylphs? And they are very of the mind, and influence and emotion and fluid, and they, unfortunately, they don't like Wi-Fi.
Well, they have their own kind of Wi-Fi, which is more like Li-Fi.
Yeah, definitely. So they, like, if you wanted to connect with them, then I would say, like, definitely turn off your mobile phone and don't, you know, because that energy, because they're in the breeze, they're in the air. So the I was finding the words for this. So you just have to kind of keep the space really clear as possible. And you hear about these electromagnetic fields
waves,
and things like this. Well, they're really sensitive to this. So you'll find that they'll actually move away from, you know, if there's a mobile phone mast or something like this, then you'll find that there's not a lot of life there actually. And the plants will be thinner. There won't be as many plants there, but they will be about, you know, a few yards away. So it really does have an impact, and it definitely impacts those fairies too. So you've got what have you got? All the names are eluding me. You've got.
But I'm loving the practical advice you're giving us, like turning off the Wi-Fi to communicate with the seals, or grounding yourself to communicate with the gnomes. Yeah, I'm really enjoying that. How close the connection that the fairies have with the physical world, and how our man-made world can affect their world. Which brings me onto a more intimate way of connecting with the fairies, which I know you, apart from the magazine, apart from your column in Soul and Spirit magazine, you are currently writing a book and creating your first fairy deck as well. I know you can't tell us much about it, but I know people want to know. So what can you tell us about these two projects that you're working on?
Okay, so I am writing a book, that's correct, and it is about fairies, yay! And it's also about it's more like a teaching memoir, so it's pulling on my own experiences with working with fairies and putting practical exercises and ways that you can connect with them too. And it's relating directly to things that have happened to me through my life. To say my very long life, I feel like I've been going for ages, but in fairy years I'm really young. I'm like 2,893 now, so but yeah, so I'm writing this book, and you're right, I can't say too much about it at the moment, but I will when I'm able to reveal a lot more about that. But it's really super fun, and it's almost like it's writing itself, because the fairies are co-writing, they're my co-authors, so that's really great. And I'm also working on an oracle deck, a fairy oracle deck, which is flowing beautifully, and I'm really excited. I literally can't wait to release it out into the world and to share it with everybody. I'm really excited about it.
I'm so excited to get all those practical tips that you're talking about. I mean, if that's what the book will be about, I'm the first one to get it.
I'll sign you a copy, but I can't send it.
I would love that. Now, you've got CDs, meditation CDs as well that you're working on, and I know I actually listened to your Manifesting with the Fairies one, and I know you have another one that came out recently. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, the most recent CD that came out is through the Fairy Portal, and that's actually a music collaboration that I did with my partner, Michael Tinkle.
Yes.
Yeah. He's not my husband, but you know, we might as well be. It's been a while. So we do music together, and that was amazing creating that, because we have a studio set up in our home office, which is where we live, and there's microphones, there's computers, there's everything, and he'll just say, come and sing on this, and I'll turn around and I'll just sing, and sometimes the words were just like I was channeling the words. And there was one of the songs which was inspired by Reverend Robert Kirk from Scotland, the Reverend that got taken away with the fairies, who is there to this day.
I've heard about that. I've heard about that.
Yeah.
I was reading a book about it. Yes, about his research on the fairies.
Yeah. He was really out there for his time, and as a religious man, it was scorned upon by his, you know, parishioners, the people within his parish, because that isn't what you do. You know, fairies were demonized back then, even more than they were now. So his
So the series are inspired by that. Okay.
Yeah, and I didn't know when I was singing it. It wasn't until I finished singing it and we listened to the words, and I said, "That's about Robert Kirk," and Mike was like, "Yeah." So that's in there, and it's
God,
just
I can't wait to go listen to that. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, it's a musical fairy journey. So you can't. It's not really a meditation one, but it does transport you into the realms of Fae, definitely.
And can people find that on your website?
Yeah, everything that I do pretty much is available. You know, you can find out more on my website, which is the karenk.co.uk website.
And do you, and also your Instagram as well. And do you have any freebies that people can get, or will there be any freebies that people can get to like start their connection with the fairies on the website?
Yes, there will be. So anybody that wants to join up to my newsletter, which they can do through the website, I've created an exclusive fairy door meditation, and that will be going to everybody who joins up to the newsletter, and that's completely free. And it's just a way that you can connect, you know, with the fairies, and it's not been released publicly before. So yeah, that's a special one.
And Fairy Jess asked, which album is that again, Karen? I think Jess, it was the Through the Fairy Portal. Is that the name of the album you were talking about the Reverend?
Yeah, yes, it was. Yes.
Through the Fairy Portal. Perfect. And now off to the news everybody has been waiting for. You have an exclusive announcement for us.
I almost forgot about that.
I haven't. And I'm very excited to hear
I know, I remembered now.
This is an exclusive for the Lit Up Show.
Right, so we're going to have one of these. Very exclusive. So basically, and I've been sitting on this for a while now, and I've wanted to tell everybody. So at the Three Wishes Fairy Festival this year, we are going to have mermaids. You've had them before, everyone says, but they are going to be in a giant aquarium. I know, right? You're a merman. I know. You've got to come, George. You have to come.
I can't deal with this.
I know. So basically,
Karen,
yeah.
Yes, please keep going, and then I'm gonna talk about my mermaid dreams.
Okay. So for years, I have been dreaming of having mermaids in a tank, in an aquarium at my festival. I've been searching high and low, but there are not any in the UK, not even in Europe. And I've been, you know, one of my jobs was a researcher for TV, and I've been researching for years, actually. The only place that I could find them was in America, and no way could I afford to fly a big tank over on a big jet. That just wasn't going to happen. So over the past couple of weeks, I've connected with these people, and they're unveiling it at Three Wishes. Plus, there's going to be a competition run in association with my festival and them, and they're called Mermaid Cove, by the way, Mermaid Cove. You'll be hearing a lot about them. They're running a competition, so one lucky winner can swim in the aquarium with the mermaids, have a meet and greet, have their pictures taken, and they will be another exclusive in a very special edition of Mermaid Magazine that is coming out towards the end of this year. So there's a couple of exclusives for you there.
I am so excited, and I think I'm gonna book my ticket and come on to the Three Wishes Festival right now, because partly my dream and my decision of leaving the UK and moving back to Cyprus was so I can work out and get into a mermaid tail. I mean, it's just my way of just embracing the mermaid realm, which I love.
Yeah, I
But
know.
yeah,
Yeah.
maybe I'll get a sneak peek at the Three Witches Fairy Festival. And Katie asks, what is the date for the festival?
The festival is a 3-day festival. It's the 15th, 16th and 17th of June, but you can just come for one day if you want to.
And that's in Glastonbury, right?
No, no, no. The
Where is it?
Three Wishes Fairy Festival is actually in Cornwall. It's
Okay.
right on the edge of Cornwall, so it's as far as you can go, and it's on the border of Devon and Plymouth. And again, that information is all on my website as well,
Yeah.
and I'll make sure it's quite prominent on the front page. Yeah, yeah, it's really
And
good.
it's
It's
near
on
the sea as well, so the mermaid vibe will be there. This is going to be
yeah,
so much fun. Okay.
yeah, definitely.
So with this exciting news, I want to thank you, Karen, for sharing this space with us, for bringing on all the fairy magic, all the fairy chimes. Thank you for sharing with us such practical ways to connection with the fairies and really reminding us that they are not just these fluffy little Tinkerbells that many people think they are. They are beings with a soul, with a spirit, with personalities, with characters, and they really want to partner with us and help us and help them co-create together this heaven of earth in this beautiful planet that we live in. Thank you so much for vibing with me. Thank you so much to everyone who joined us for this live. Be sure to follow Karen on Instagram, Karen K Fairy, and follow me as well, George Lizos, as well as check out her website, karenk.com. Is that the one, Karen?
Yeah, karenk.co.uk.
karenk.com. And what's the other one with the fairy events?
The fairy events, I've got two, but there's one that's fairyfestival.co.uk or fairyevents.com. And actually, if you go to my Instagram profile, my website's on there, so you can link right through to that, and all the other websites are on there. So
Perfect. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, everybody. Be sure to come and join my private Facebook group, Your Spiritual Toolkit. If you search that on Facebook, you'll be able to find it, where I'll post this interview so you can watch it again if you want to. It is Your Spiritual Toolkit on Facebook, where Karen is hanging out with us as well. All righty. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much, Karen. Have a beautiful day, evening, wherever you are in the world. Bye-bye.
thank you. Bye.